Welcome to the making of the latest Kung Fu Panda film, where the filmmakers pushed the boundaries of action and innovation. Their goal was to create the biggest and best Kung Fu Panda film yet, with even more heart-pumping action than before. To achieve this, they introduced cutting-edge camera techniques, including the use of GoPro cameras to give a thrilling first-person perspective during intense fight scenes. This immersive approach puts you right in the midst of the action, making you feel like you're part of the battle. The film also introduces a new shape-shifting chameleon character, whose transformation reflects her anger. The animators worked tirelessly to create a complex rig with thousands of controls, allowing every part of the character to move and transform seamlessly. Another new character, a sassy fox, was designed to be both cute and feisty, adding a fresh dynamic to the story. The filmmakers aim to create a world of animals that's both adorable and terrifying, with monstrous bunnies that have no inhibitions when it comes to violence. The film takes place in the vast and vibrant city of Juniper City, a fusion of ancient fantasy China and New York's Times Square. This bustling metropolis is home to a diverse array of animals, creating a lively and crowded atmosphere that's full of energy and excitement. Throughout the making of this film, the filmmakers' passion and dedication to the Kung Fu Panda franchise shine through. Their goal was to create a movie that not only appeals to themselves, but also to the audience, and they've certainly achieved that. Kung Fu Panda is one of my favorite franchises from DreamWorks. I remember watching the first film back in the day and being amazed by its style, charm, and personality. The action scenes, accompanied by beautiful Chinese orchestral music, still give me goosebumps. The first movie follows the journey of Po, a silly panda who discovers his inner strength and becomes the Dragon Warrior, defeating the villain Tai Lung and restoring peace to the valley. The second film, in my opinion, was even better than the first. Po faces off against Lord Shen, a peacock villain who wants to use gunpowder to take over China. Along the way, we learn about Po's tragic backstory and his panda village. The third movie continues the story, with Po finding his panda village and his biological father, while battling the villain General Kai. Now, we come to the fourth film, which unfortunately falls short. The plot feels predictable and lacks substance. The new character, Zhen, is revealed to be the adopted daughter of the villain, but their relationship is underdeveloped. The motives of the chameleon villain, who steals kung fu from other masters, are also weak. The movie tries to create nostalgia by including past villains, but it doesn't convince me. What shocked me the most was learning that Kung Fu Panda 4 was initially considered to be a live-action hybrid with human actors. Additionally, the director of the film focused more on funny moments rather than heartfelt ones, which may have contributed to the film's shortcomings. Overall, while the first three Kung Fu Panda movies were enjoyable, the fourth installment was disappointing due to its predictable plot, underdeveloped characters, and lack of substance. Here is why it lacks substance. The characters Chameleon and Zhen, as well as the Furious Five, Shen, and Kai, were only included in the movie because the artists fought hard for it. They believed that leaving these characters out would be a massive loss to the fans, and it wouldn't make sense to exclude them completely. However, these characters do not have voices in the movie due to budget constraints. It is revealed that there was originally a plot where Shifu was kidnapped, which was the motive for Po going to Juniper City. I prefer this plot over the actual plot of Po stopping a villain because he didn't want to be the Dragon Warrior at the moment. Additionally, there was supposed to be a final goodbye moment between Shifu and Tai Lung, but this idea was scrapped. We also suggest that corporate meddling in the film was extensive and that anything good in the movie was due to the efforts of the artists and staff who fought to preserve the elements that fans love about Kung Fu Panda. The visuals of the film are praised, with the exception of the lack of iconic 2D animated sequences from previous films. The music is also praised as wonderful. However, overall, the film is described as feeling hollow and lacking substance. We suggest that this may be due to corporate interference and the diminishing returns of creativity in the animation industry. Universal, the owner of DreamWorks, seems to be focused on streamlining the animation production process and lowering costs. Thus, DreamWorks is fully outsourcing their animation production to Sony Pictures Imageworks in an effort to avoid unions and reduce costs. This gives me concern for the future of the animation industry, especially with the potential rise of AI replacing artists. Kung Fu Panda 4 has made headlines with its impressive financial success, recouping its production budget within just a week of its release. However, despite its commercial triumph, the film has failed to generate significant buzz. Critics and audiences alike have labeled it as, at best, serviceable, and at worst, a disappointment. So, if you're considering watching it, we recommend waiting for its streaming or physical release rather than shelling out for a theater ticket. It's just not worth the hype. I do acknowledge the effort and passion of the unsung heroes who worked on the film, but we call on the leadership at DreamWorks to do better. I hope that the studio can continue to bring their best to the table. This is also my thoughts on Kung Fu Panda 4. I had high hopes for a new creative renaissance for DreamWorks, especially with the beloved Kung Fu Panda franchise. But sadly, the lack of marketing and unimpressive trailer set the tone for a disappointing experience. Despite low expectations, the movie still managed to underwhelm me. The pacing was sluggish, the tension non-existent, and the stakes felt inconsequential. The villain, a chameleon, was the weakest in the series, lacking intimidation and a compelling motivation. Its actions were unimpressive, with the most evil deed being pushing someone down the stairs. The decision to have the chameleon take the old villain's powers felt weightless and unearned. The absence of the Furious Five and other villains, likely due to budget constraints, made the Kung Fu Panda universe feel smaller and more limited. The majority of the movie focused on a generic and charmless character, Awkwafina, whose chemistry with Po felt forced. In contrast, Po's relationship with Tigress was much more convincing. While the action and visuals were decent, and some jokes landed, like the scene with Mr. Ping and Lee leaving a tavern, the movie's flaws outweighed its few redeeming qualities. I would have enjoyed the movie more if it focused on the charming buddy adventure of Mr. Ping and Lee. Po's character has stagnated since the second film, and his attempts to become a spiritual leader didn't lead to any significant growth or change. The film's plot felt like a waste of time, adding nothing new to the Kung Fu Panda universe. It felt like a TV show plotline rather than a meaningful installment in the series. The action and comedy were average at best, with some scenes feeling like complete nonsense. Overall, I believe this film didn't need to be made and makes the Kung Fu Panda universe feel smaller. I rate it a 5 out of 10, the weakest film in the series. Unless Kung Fu Panda 5 is even weaker, I don't see my sentiment changing. I'm still reeling from the disappointment that is Kung Fu Panda 4. As a fan of the beloved trilogy, I was excited to see where the story would go next. But what I got was a lazy cash grab that ruins the characters and IP. The inclusion of Megamind, a character from another DreamWorks movie, was a red flag from the start. The story revolves around Po passing on the title of Dragon Warrior to a new character named Jen, voiced by Awkwafina. I was disappointed to find Jen annoying and unlikable, reminiscent of derivative MCU characters who make snarky comments and often make situations worse. I predict she'll eventually redeem herself, but that doesn't excuse her poor introduction. The main villain, a chameleon, is introduced in a lackluster manner and lacks the wit, charm, and personality of previous DreamWorks villains. Her backstory, which revolves around being considered too short to train in dojos, is unconvincing, especially when smaller characters are accepted. The introduction of magic in the Kung Fu Panda universe is also a misstep, departing from the established magic system and feeling like a misunderstanding of how magic works in this world. The pacing of the movie is frustrating, with scenes like the tavern scene and the fight with insignificant characters feeling like a waste of time. Mr. Ping and Lee are also in the movie, but their role is unclear. The movie sacrifices logic and reason for humor, resulting in a lack of funny jokes and a constant stream of misses. Po is portrayed as stupid to make the new characters seem better. which is frustrating considering he should be the most famous person in China after stopping a war. The climax of the movie is the only scene that feels true to the characters, with a cool fight between the chameleon and Tong. However, the chameleon's ability to steal Tong's powers is confusing, and I question why she would need the other villain's powers if she already has Tong's perfect reflexes and dexterity. The new characters are underdeveloped, and the wasted potential of bringing back the villains is disappointing. The movie puts the villains in cages and doesn't allow them to make peace with Po, which feels like a missed opportunity. I can see potential for redemption for the character Tyler L., who almost became a good guy in the first movie. I'm tired of the trope of passing on the torch to unlikable characters. Tigress should have been the one to become the Dragon Warrior. This movie feels like a soft reboot, abandoning passion for sequels. I'm concerned about the direction of the Kung Fu Panda franchise if it continues down this path. I never thought the Kung Fu Panda franchise needed another installment, and after watching the latest movie, I stand by my original assessment. Kung Fu Panda 4 falls short of the greatness achieved by the first two films and has supplanted the third as the worst in the franchise. While it's not terrible, it lacks the depth and substance that made its predecessors genuinely great action films with beautiful messages and epic moments. The previous films elevated themselves beyond being just kids' movies, but Kung Fu Panda 4 feels like a purely kiddie film, good only for wasting a child's time while parents do other things. Something feels off about this movie. It goes against the nature of the franchise and fails to commit to the changes it tries to introduce. The film's unwillingness to age or change Po, played by Jack Black, creates a problem for the story. If Po is still acting the same way he always has, there's no reason for him to change, making the plot feel forced. The film could have worked if Po had started the film slightly older and felt his age, making the idea of him passing on the torch to a successor more meaningful and creating conflict and pathos. However, the film is too scared to divest itself of its star and commit to having someone else take the spotlight. The pacing of the film is also a problem, moving too quickly and not allowing moments to sink in or stick with the audience. The film never stops talking and refuses to linger on anything, doing a disservice to the story. The villain, Chameleon, is the worst build-up in the franchise's history, lacking intimidation and not doing anything impressive. In conclusion, Kung Fu Panda 4 falls short compared to its predecessors. It goes against the nature of the franchise, fails to commit to the changes it tries to introduce, and has a lackluster villain. The pacing is too quick, and the story suffers as a result. Overall, I'm disappointed with the film. The chameleon's weakness as a villain is also a significant issue. To establish her as a true threat, she should have killed Po. However, she's not portrayed as a skilled fighter throughout the story, undermining her credibility as a formidable opponent. Her plan and motivations are unoriginal and lack depth, and her backstory, which involves being rejected from kung fu masters due to her size, contradicts the existence of other small-sized characters like Mantis and Viper. The film would have worked better as a spin-off focusing on the relationship between the chameleon and her apprentice, Jen. This dynamic had potential for an interesting story, but it was introduced too late in the film to have a significant impact. The lack of foreshadowing and character development in this aspect is a flaw in the writing. The action scenes in the film also lack the wow factor present in previous Kung Fu Panda movies, and the excessive use of animal puns became annoying. The absence of the Furious Five is not surprising, as they have always been wasted potential in the franchise. The celebrity voice cast and the high cost of their lines have hindered the development of these characters, so reducing their role to cameos in this film is a better alternative than forcing them into a storyline that does not do them justice. In conclusion, Kung Fu Panda 4 is a bland experience that fails to deliver on its premise. The story needed more time to develop or should have cut the side plot to better fit the limited runtime. Despite this, I'm not against the idea of more movies in the franchise, as I've given up on any IP being given a proper ending.